put on your seatbelt. Let's go.
All right, turn up the music.
There's a killer on the loose. Look out, he's right behind you. He won't give me the axe. I'm scared, but I'm fighting back. We are the scream queens, running through the night. We are the scream queens, gonna put up a fight, make everything alright. Flowing through.
Welcome to Scream Queens Horror Road Trip Podcast. That was your final girl, Miss Justine, and I am your sole survivor, Mr. Josh. Welcome to episode 104.
104, tell the whore next door.
Oh, okay. Ding dong. Hi. We are currently on Interstate 81 in Pennsylvania, heading up to Camp Crystal Lake in New Jersey.
Yes, now, Camp Crystal Lake is Camp Nobi Bosco
Yes.
in Freehold, New Jersey.
So yeah, we're heading up to New Jersey. We're also
We're going to Jersey.
We're gonna go to Blairstown and see a lot of the filming locations, more specifically where Annie's roaming around at the beginning of the movie.
Yes, there's shots of like a cemetery area and then a little downtown diner situation.
Yeah, we're gonna eat at the diner, in theory. We're going to walk around, find the cemetery, the little town where she's walking through. Then this evening, it is currently September 13th, Friday the 13th, and we are heading to Camp Nobi Bosco tonight. And that is where they filmed all the camp sequences in the original film.
So we're having kind of just the most amazing Friday the 13th moment.
Yeah, we bought these tickets back in January when it was announced they were doing this event, and we've been looking forward to this forever. It used to be very elusive, like really hard to get into this camp. It wasn't always open. I think it was still operating as a kids camp. It might still be, honestly. I think it is. But they used to not allow any kinds of tours, let outsiders in, but now I guess they've embraced the movie and its legacy, and they are doing these like Friday the 13th events now.
Which is incredible for us. You know we love a tour.
Yeah, we love going and seeing a film location. I don't know why that word wouldn't come to my head. We love going to a good film location. We've been waiting to do like the big franchises for like events like this. We waited forever to do Scream till we could go to the house. We covered Nightmare on Elm Street when we were able to go to see Freddy's house and Tina's house and a lot of the locations. Sorry, I am on the most bumpy road right now.
It's giving us a warning of the bridge ices before the road, but the bridge also bumps for the podcast.
Oh, it's like crazy, guys.
Holy moly. Oh, and we're passing through Middlesex.
This always seems to happen to us. We'll be having like the most calm drive, and then as soon as we start recording, it's like bum, 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 bum. Or I don't know, maybe we're just paying more attention to it. But
well, in this respect, we did have like perfect road conditions, and then we proceeded to get into the biggest laughing fit of the road trip thus far for us, where we could not even catch our breath. I was crying. Josh, like on a previous like trying to, open up, had made a little goof, and it just like got us in stitches. And then we just had to like restart, but then like that got us laughing, so it took us a second, and so now here we are on the bumpiest of roads.
Sorry about that.
but
yeah, like we were saying, we like filming locations. We like going and doing the big franchises whenever we can actually go to the location. So you've probably noticed we still haven't done Halloween. We hope to do that sometime, go out to Pasadena and do all that stuff. But today we're heading to New Jersey to do all of the original Friday the 13th locations.
I'm so just like, I'm extremely, I feel very extremely lucky that I'm having such a titular day. It's like,
titular.
It's Friday the 13th, It is the day before my best friend's birthday.
Oh.
We're covering a movie that we both love very much and have had the privilege to meet many of the cast members and just really get to know by going to different panels and meet and greets, those awesome opportunities to get to know the actors and hear from them.
Yes, if you recall, we went to Texas Frightmare as usual, and we just met Sean Cunningham and Adrian King. That was very special.
And we've also heard from Tom Savini during different panels that he's been on. He speaks often of his experience on Friday the 13th and just the amazing vision with special effects, practical effects that he brought to this film, and then kind of, began a journey for Sean S. Cunningham and him to work on other movies together and to help others in the horror community get their start.
That's right. This movie's iconic.
This movie is iconic, and it has iconic, I don't want to overuse that word, but I will to lead into this, Harry Manfredini. He is behind the music and also the creation of that classic, sound, that we hear when we, right before a murder happens, right before a kill happens, you hear that coming on, and it was inspired by once he heard the story of what Betsy Palmer delivers at the end, her monologue explaining why she is the killer, that she is taking revenge on her child's death, and that he kind of speaks to her even though he's dead, and is persuading her to kill mommy. Kill Don't scare me too much. We haven't even opened up the movie and you're already getting me goose pimpled. Okay. Sorry. I also have something that just got in my throat, so
we're just a
hot little mess. Goodness, what has happened? Okay. Would you like to? Do you want to expand on anything else, or we want to save it and open them? Okay.
Save it and open it.
Save it and open it. Save it and open it. Okay, we're gonna save it and open it, and it is opening on 1958. We get this POV of these beautiful sleeping children, these little campers.
These little babies sleeping at summer camp,
and we've got also our camp counselors sitting by the fireside doing a little sing-along. We get a little eye fucking between a couple that are come hither looks.
She's like, I really like how you sing that
kumbaya, my lord.
You kumbaya me into your heart.
In my yaw.
You can kumbaya me anytime.
Oh, right.
That's what they were saying.
We're just gonna keep drawing out this pun. Okay. But yes, they give each other that look that says, meet me in the shed, and they hop over there, but we're continuing this POV, so there's an onlooker that is watching all of this happening, observing.
And what's happening is these camp counselors, these teenagers are derobing.
Yeah, they are just doing what teens do best.
Talk of putting hole in the pole.
Or pole. Or pole in the hole is kind of more.
Yeah, I guess you don't put the hole
Josh,
in the pole.
I guess you're just letting everybody know we need to have the birds in the beach.
No one told me how it was done.
Oh my gosh, son, sit down.
When a man loves a woman.
When a serial
killer
people
love each other.
Loves his victim. He puts his pole
in the hole.
the hole.
And that means butcher knife in the chest wound.
Yeah, but before these two lovers in their tryst can climax, this unseen
moiterer.
Moiterer. He's gonna come after him. Are we gonna start talking Jersey talk? Because we're on our way to
heading to New Jersey. There's a moita.
So there's a moita, and he's got her, and so he's got stabber, and next thing you know, then he's getting stabbed over here, and she's getting stabbed over there.
GTL, Gym Tan. What's the other? What's L?
Laundry? Is
Laundry,
that it?
yeah, Gym Tan Laundry.
Gym Tan Laundry. But we have to come up with a different one because it's like Gym, kill, or murder.
Murder, moita, kill, eviscerate.
Gettysburg. We're in Pennsylvania. I just saw a sign
And
for
Justine thinks
Gettysburg.
everything's Gettysburg.
I do. In Pennsylvania, every burg is Gettysburg. And I'm a burg, and you're a burg. All right, let's get back to this Moida. So, the two camp counselors are being attacked in this abandoned shed or cabin area. They were trying to get a freak on, but now they're becoming victims. But we don't see this killer, and then we get our title card that
And you get this
violin
like
music.
really great like slow-mo shot of the girl getting chased down, and she
Yeah.
looks right into the camera, and it like freeze frames, and she's screaming, and you're like, oh, she didn't survive that freeze frame.
No, typically in freeze frame history, it's to signify the end of life.
Justine has her
I have multiple
PhD in
PhDs.
freeze frame analogy.
No, I wrote my dissertation on freeze frames and what they do in freezing. In the freezing process.
In the freezing process.
Yes, you put the film in a deep freezer.
That's how you get the freeze
That's how
frame.
you freeze the frame.
Oh my god, we couldn't be dumber right now. Anyways, they're dead. These
They're
kids
dead.
are dead.
Freeze frame, title card, shatter. Here we go. Friday the 13th, and then open again, and we have our what we will find out to be a camp counselor. But we've got this girl. She's got her backpack on, or backpacking. It looks trekking in this little small town
Her
area.
name's Annie. She's cute, brunette. She's bubbly, got freckles. She is so happy to be a camp counselor.
She's a
this summer.
brilliant personality. But yeah, she's trying to get directions in this small town diner for Camp Crystal Lake. She asks, and of course everyone is like, turn head,
Yes.
must look to see who's asking about.
It's like record, like someone pulled the needle off the record scratch,
Yes.
and everyone stops, stares at her. It's so awkward.
Get these whispers of like, and it feels like the whole town is at the diner. Because I looked up currently the population of Blairstown, Josh, and it's like mid 400.
Oh, she's just
It's
a
a
sleepy
small,
little thing.
yeah, like a small little town. So I wonder back in 1980, maybe even 1979 when this is being filmed, like how many inhabitants were there? Maybe everybody's at the diner today.
I bet there's going to be a lot of people at the diner today when we go. It's Friday the 13th. There's a lot of people
yeah.
in town for this event. So I have a feeling the town might even be a little hopping more than usual today.
Poppin', hoppin', and lock droppin'.
But anyways, that's exactly it. And Annie is hanging around this town, and everyone's like, at the diners gives the backstory to the camp.
Yeah, they're calling it Camp Blood, and they're just kind of like shock and awe that she would be going to it. She's like, I just need to know where it is. Could anybody take me there? So a trucker named Enos, but local trucker,
Pushes her up by the butt.
hoists her up both cheeks because it's necessary, like just for it's a cheerleading stunt.
It was
Josh.
1980. It was harmless, right?
Yeah, and he used to be a cheerleader, so he's just kind of
Yeah.
used to just hoisting up. She was going to get in her
That's
stunt,
right.
probably a little liberty, and they get in. The camp is like 20 miles ish, they say, away from town. And he's looking at her strange, like, girl, you crazy? What don't you know about this place? And she's like, I don't know anything. I'm just there to cook food for like 50 campers. And he tells her there have been some mysteries that have happened. There was a young boy that drowned back in 57.
Camp counselors were murdered.
Yep, the next year after, we get brutal murders, and then just like nothing happening for years and years. It's been just sitting there.
And now the Christies have come along.
And they've decided to just pour money into it. He's talking about they've blown like $25K, which I wonder what $25K, okay, for like in 1980, like what that would mean like now. Like just pouring it, is it a money pit? According to this guy, it is. But there's not just him that has given Annie the ick while she was in town, though. Before we get too far away, we got to introduce our character Ralph.
Yeah, Ralph is this old man who rides a bike around town, and he's
the town crazy.
He's the town crazy, and he is our, what would you call it?
He's kind of the voice of reason. He's the one
giving the warning.
Yeah,
he's like the lighthouse
harbinger
of the movie, of the don't go there. If you don't listen to me, I'm telling you what is going to happen to you.
Yes.
And if you don't listen, the people at home watching know all these things are going to happen to you.
Yes. So he is screaming like, don't go. It's camp, or you're doomed. Like, it's Camp Blood.
Do his voice.
Oh my gosh.
What's the famous thing he says?
You're doomed.
You're doomed.
You're doomed.
You're doomed up there.
Okay, so she's like, whatever, you crazy man. Like, I love it. I live for this kind of thrill.
Arts and crafts and kayaking are my favorite.
This is it for me.
It's my life.
It's my life. I'm doing this, Dad. But if he's like, I'm not your dad. She's like, sorry. It's like how my dad treats me.
I'm gonna go do archery in the forest.
She's like, you're giving me the ick.
I'm gonna weave baskets and swim in the lake.
I love it with my tits out. Because it's 1980.
If you're lucky.
Okay. So we got that scene, and then cut to meet the other counselors, and we meet in the truck. We meet Jack and Ned and Marcy, and Jack is played by Kevin Bacon.
Oh.
Although this isn't his like first movie. His first movie is National Lampoon's.
This propelled him to stardom.
This gave him that real hoist he needed. This is what everyone, when you're thinking 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, your first like movies are just these like classics with all of these other comedy and then like horror, like act like you're gonna
Wild
go out
Things,
and
that's my favorite to
Yes.
think of him in.
but this is why we get 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. He was in everything. And
He's
he
an
was-
icon.
He's an icon. He goes on, he just flashed into like the 80s was everything for him. I also love that he eventually works with Kevin Williamson, because Kevin Williamson is like was the showrunner and the creator of The Following. And
Yeah, The Following.
He was in that, and there's so many moments in those Scream movies that are brought up that Kevin Williamson writes that are about like, about Kevin Bacon, and he is just a whore daddy.
Oh, horror daddy or horror daddy?
You be the
Oh.
interpreter on that.
I think you meant both.
I
think you said one, but meant both.
Maybe I said one and I meant the other, and maybe I said that one and I meant that one.
I think you meant it.
Okay, so we meet them in their truck, and they're just kind of talking about like the fun summer that they're just silly,
They're having so much fun together.
We get to the camp and we meet Steve and Alice. There's Brenda. Bill's there. So Steve is the camp director. He's trying to keep everybody on task, and the kids they kind of are kids. They're like probably playing characters like 16 to 18 years old or something, but they're showing up a couple of weeks early to get the camp ready. There are still little bows to tie, I's and T's and
they're
stuff
painting,
like that.
they're changing light bulbs, they're, doing the last little bit to open the
Sprucing up
place.
the grounds.
They're using that last bit of $25,000 is what they're doing right now.
Yeah, and they just want to get it all ready for the campers. But, excuse me again, pardon guys, so sorry. But they have already taken note that Annie hasn't arrived. And Steve is needing to go back into town.
And she was going to be the cook, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So they're all worried about not getting food.
Yeah. If I'm showing up and I've got to work, that's exactly what I'm worried
Like,
about.
who's cooking for me right
feeding
now?
me? I didn't come here to work for free.
I was promised free meals.
Or to not be fed. I'm on a per diem. So you better be giving me my due. I need it right now. Right here? Right now.
Give it.
Okay. Well, Steve is giving everybody kind of their checklist of things to do. He's got to go back into town. But the group is like, yeah, we're just going to do some horse playing. They get their bathing suits on and go have a good swim time. We get to know our characters a little bit more. We definitely realize that Ned is the comedian of the group. He is the one dancing around in an inappropriate Native American headdress.
Yeah, he thinks he's something special, something American.
Yeah, because there's that whole scene where, I mean, kind of jumping around, but with these characters getting to know him, where he jumps in the lake and then acts like he can't swim and he drowns.
All for a kiss.
So that's not a consensual kiss, by the way. He's doing a few problematic things for me that in 1980 are considered funny, and now people would be like, yeah, we're not going to put that in them. That's just that we're not going to do that. And which one's his girlfriend? Brenda, right?
Brenda.
Yeah. Brenda, she's real. All of these girls are gorgeous. The dudes are hotties too, but the ladies are a trifecta of beauty. Marcy does that like Hepburn impression in the mirror. You can tell she's like maybe got aspirations of being an actress in her life.
She's like, I'm gonna make it after all.
Brenda's kind of like she has a humor all her own. She'll play strip Monopoly with you. She'll
make you. She's like, sit down.
Take your top off. Get your tits
you're
out.
not going to jail. You're taking your tits out.
You're taking your tits out now.
Then you'll pass go and collect $200.
They're all horse playing though and having a good old time while Steve is gone. And the cop, there's like two cops basically through this whole movie. They kind of interchange out, but one of our two cop friends that we get to know shows up and is like, hey guys, I'm looking for Ralph. So all of them get to learn who the town crazy is.
And they hear the story, don't they?
Yes.
About what happened. And nope, but none of them have seen Ralph. He's not going to pop up until after the cop leaves.
Yeah, almost directly after the officer leaves and tells them like on his way out like that this town isn't going to deal with any kind of like bullshit.
Yeah.
Any kind of shenanigans.
He's really mad about it.
He just immediately comes off as that just like, we're not a fun town. We're going to judge you for anything that you guys do. You're not going to have a fun summer. So
You're here to work, not play.
I'm not going into town then. We're just staying at camp all summer.
Yeah.
Well,
We'll
lucky
send
for
Annie to get the food.
Well, Annie's supposed to be cooking for us. So,
but guys, Annie's not going to make it.
no. Okay, so we get back to Annie. She is making her way. She'd gotten out of the car. She's like just making her way up to the camp. Then she sees this Jeep pass her by and then pick her up. And the next thing you know, pass by the camp. She's like, hey, like isn't it the turnoff for Camp Crystal Lake? And she just gets completely freaked out.
She's like, wait a second. Let me out.
Leaps out of the Jeep.
She does a tuck and roll.
Tucked? Like tucked as in like Silence of the Lambs? Like
No.
tucked or?
No.
Oh.
I mean, maybe. I couldn't see under her drawers, but I don't know if she was
The
tucking
assumption
up.
is she's just tucking and rolling
Yeah.
up the car. Yeah. She tucks and rolls into the forest is right by the camp. She starts running. She's already injured herself on that tuck and roll.
Yeah,
And
poor girl. She tries.
she
Annie
does.
Annie had spirit to her.
We don't again see our killer. This is all just kind of a work of hands that we see, a ring on a hand. We see this Bowie knife come into play. Annie's by a tree. She gets kind of like pinned up against it, and her throat is slit. Slit to shit.
Ooh, you just hurt everyone's ears, including mine. But you're right. She gets slit to shit, and it's, I think, our first taste of Tom Savini's work in the movie, right?
Yes. This wonderful blood that he has created for the movie, and all of this engineering that he's doing to get this effect of blood pumping. He does that a couple times, even one time by mistake, but yes, he's a pumper.
He likes to pump.
It's definitely, we've got to point out that mostly before this movie, especially the thing about slasher movies was they were giving you a lot of insinuation that things were taking place. They weren't actually showing you, or you weren't getting it just like hardcore in your face. It's not till Friday the 13th that we start getting slasher gore.
Yeah.
Before, slashers were more of it was just an interpretation of what's happened. It was off screen. Maybe you saw Leatherface lift up the character onto the meat hook, but you didn't see the meat hook go inside the character.
Halloween is pretty tame in comparison. You know, you get that one good cut on Laurie's arm. You know, she does stab him in the eye, but a lot of it's like off screen. You never see how Annie really, well, you do see Annie die, but you know,
but it's a phone call or
it's a choking. I was going to say, like, you know, what's her name's cut in half and stuffed in the closet later. Her body's all twisted up and stuffed in the closet.
Yeah.
Titties out too, I think. But yeah, they really
blood
go brutal.
pumping out,
yeah.
and
that became a trend in the 80s. Like, the gorier the better.
yes. It really was with Friday the 13th that they were like, we're not going to hold back. We really are just going to put it out there, see what the MPA, what were they calling them?
Motion Picture Association.
Yeah.
Censors. Yeah.
Censors. We'll let them, just push them to the brink, you know, and they got away with quite a bit. And then that just becomes the norm afterwards. And especially with Friday the 13th, the franchise, the body count becomes a big to-do. For when we get into the movies of Jason, it's like, how many people does Jason knock off in this movie? But we're not there yet. We're not even with Jason yet.
No.
We're just back. We're back at camp. Ned he's wandered off. Ned is our funny guy, but he is just taking in the scenery, and they've all kind of started to go off on their own a little bit. We get Marcy and Jack kind of like hardcore making out, but Ned sees something. It's like a figure.
And I would say something sees Ned. You get that POV of someone watching him through the window, and he's just like prattling along through the woods by himself and goes into that cabin, and we never see him again. No,
and the cloaked figure is kind of got like a rain slicker on. We do know that they've already alluded to that a storm's going to be coming in, but we don't have that quite yet, but that's going to come into play. And we don't see Ned anymore. But next we see...
we're going to see him in a little bit.
Yeah. Well, we don't see
him alive.
Ned alive anymore. We have Marcy and Jack, and they come upon the same cabin that Ned went in just moments before, and they're like, yeah, let's come canoodle in here. It's all getting rainy, and other things are getting wet too.
Yeah, we're getting more pole and hole.
Pole and hole. And we get Ned up top on the bunk beds.
Yes.
He's dead while they're doing it.
Yeah, they're doing it right under a dead body.
Dead and doing it.
So, on a scale from 1 to 10, how much does that turn you on?
Well, they didn't know.
Yeah, they didn't know.
And so...
He must not have been in rigor mortis yet, or decaying, which he wouldn't, I guess. He probably wouldn't smell bad yet.
No, his probably just got blood pooling at the bottom of that mattress. But Marcy, right after sex, she does what good girls do and goes to the potty.
She's gonna go pee, so she's gonna get a UTI. Then
That's
she's gonna
right.
clean her cooter out.
That's exactly
And
what you do, ladies.
While she's doing that, she does a killer Hepburn impersonation.
In her granny panties. You guys, I want to get her underwear.
Yeah, it's like those really cute little cotton briefs
They
that
have the little
strings on the side.
Yes.
So cute.
It's adorable. I want to wear those, and I want to also practice my Hepburn impression. Do your Katharine Hepburn impression.
Why, hello, well, I don't know.
What the hell? That was just like any old mid-Atlantic.
You do one now. You do your best Hepburn. Let's hear it.
Oh,
What the hell was that? That's all I heard.
Stop it. Don't talk to me like that. No.
So I think we've gotten to the conclusion that we can't do a Hepburn impersonation.
Well,
it's getting worse. Let's just stop where we're ahead.
I can't. I just start cracking up laughing. Okay. Yeah, we're not trying. We're not. We're not. But she does a decent enough because we can't. So it's decent enough.
Hello, dear. No.
And then she gets kind of distracted. She hears something.
She's like, what the fuck?
She's pulled into this like she's been at this like outhouse
Yeah, it's
area.
You know how at camps the bathroom's like in its own little cabin by itself with the shower stalls. And, yeah, that's
It's
kind of
for
like
your
where she
weenie
is.
protection.
For weenie protection, you don't want your barracks or your cabin like mildewing with
You don't want
shower.
your barracks with your bare ass.
You don't want a bare ass barrack. I don't know.
She gets axed in the face.
Yeah, she takes it good.
She
To
goes,
the face.
"Oh my dear, oh." That's my
Oh,
cabin.
my dear.
Oh.
I think you've got a huge axe there.
You've got a huge accent.
I would have to
Tonight,
hear
Catherine.
Katharine
Yeah, I
Hepburn
need to-
first.
Oh, son, what? I swear she has some
Please,
come
come
like.
here. Well,
in
yeah,
her-
she had like, the shakes in her old age.
the shakes.
I forget what that disease is really called.
Okay, well let's move on.
I just call them the shakes.
Okay.
She had the old lady shakes.
Yeah,
you
she
know?
had the old lady shakes, and so did Marcy as she got axed in the face by an unseen murderer.
She was moited.
I'm mourning. Bill, Alice, and Brenda.
They decided to
are-
play strip Monopoly.
Yeah, okay. Josh, name off 3 board games that you would get nude to.
Payday. Do you remember that game?
Right?
Clue
For sure, Clue.
and Operation. You could
Ooh.
You could like pinch my nipples with
Okay, I'm going Clue, Candyland,
Oh, strip Candyland would be so sexy.
and Battleship.
When you land on the Licorice King.
Yes,
and you gotta,
right?
like,
You gotta ride it down. Yeah, or you gotta get on that mudslide mountain.
Ew, I hope not.
Your face.
Yuck.
Ooh, you had like a little pucker face.
Ugh.
Yeah, but they're playing Monopoly, which seems really like strip boring.
Like, they just don't have a lot to do. They're stuck at this camp. They don't even have a decent dinner because Annie had to get killed in the woods.
Yeah, they haven't eaten
Fucking
like
bitch.
all day. I would be in a terrible
Poor
mood.
Annie. R.I.P.
But I mean, also it's valid that they're just like they're so sickly from not having any food that they would choose to do like nude Monopoly,
Yeah.
strip Monopoly. Well, we didn't really ever
They
get
don't.
to see
No
it
one gets
played
really
out,
stripped
though.
down that much, except from. Does anybody like there's no titties out.
Brenda's in her bra
Yeah, she's in her bra, but
and underoos.
she still didn't make it that
And
far.
Bill, I think Bill was in his boxers or something.
So
Or his
sexy.
thong.
I think
Might
it
have
was
been
a
his
thong.
Silver
His little G-string.
G-string thong that was like disco-y.
Yep.
But so Brenda though decides, or not decides, I guess she remembers that she left her windows open in her cabin, and now she needs to go in this torrential downpour rain over to her cabin and close those windows
Oh, no.
and get ready for bed and just kind of, light a candle, get out her magic wand, turn on some gentle, soothing, relaxing sounds.
So it's time to decompress and really find who I am again.
Get out her vibrator, have a moment.
What do they call it now? Gooning?
Gooning? What?
It's when you masturbate for a really long time. It's called gooning.
Oh, God.
That's like the new it word right now. You haven't heard of gooning?
No, on my life, I've never heard of that. I'm gonna look that up. Are you BSing me?
No, I
You'll
swear.
do
I think
this
that's
where
what it
you
is.
try to convince me that something is happening.
Oh, I do this all the
and
time.
then I'll be like, fine, I give in, and be like, okay, and then I'll see you just start snickering over there.
This has never happened before.
Oh my gosh! Happens all the time, you guys. Okay, well, I'm immediately looking this up, and we're gonna follow up with everybody
Gooning.
on what gooning is.
It's there.
I think you're making this
No,
up.
I'm not.
Okay. So Brenda, yeah, she's having herself a little moment, and then she hears these sounds that are coming from outside, and they're like, "Help me!" Sounds like a child, but she's like, "What? We don't have any campers here yet. What's going on?" She goes out there, and then we get all of these lights come on, and the killer is cloaked again. That rain slicker.
Poor girl, she's wanted to practice her archery. She's out there under the bright lights on the archery court.
Bright lights and big boobs.
She's like, I was just playing Strip Monopoly.
And now I'm out here with my target.
I just bought the boardwalk. You can't kill me now.
But she does end up dying off screen. We hear these screams from Brenda. That we think she's dead, right? She's got to be dead.
Girl gone.
And Alice and Bill are like, whoa, what was that? Oh my
I heard
God.
scramming.
We've got scramming going on.
Someone is outside scramming.
There's a person scramming, and then we haven't actually seen Ned or Steve.
I think
or
something has to do.
Annie.
Something got to do with something.
Or Marcy, or Jack, or Brenda.
Steve.
They
He never came
all-
back.
I said him already.
Okay.
So,
We never talked about how there was a weird relationship between him and
well,
what's our homegirl?
this is our podcast. We can talk about it right now
What's
if we
her
want to.
homegirl's name or girl?
Alice.
Alice. I
Yeah.
don't know why her name is escaping me. There's
Yeah.
obviously something going on between Steve and Alice. He's disappointed her in some way.
Yes, and that's why she doesn't know if she only wants to stay for a week or stay for the whole camp. At the beginning when when she gets introduced, they just have that conversation of I don't know if I'm staying here a
He's like,
week or.
please.
Yeah,
Touching her face, all
Well,
awkward.
what do you think? He probably did something sus.
Yeah, he fucked some other girl.
Oh. Okay. I didn't actually mean that
That's
necessarily.
what he did. I bet he had to.
Or maybe she thought that they were going to do something, or that they were going to be a couple, and he
No.
wasn't ready for that or something.
He did something, but
But
I think
then he
cheated.
learned the error of his ways. He was like, oh my God, she's loved my life. I've got to get her to come work this camp.
I mean, once a cheater, always a cheater. I think he cheated.
Okay. All right. But she goes to the camp, and it really,
And
yeah.
cut to her now.
She's super scared.
Back where we were, yeah.
Yeah, she's super scared. She and Bill are left to figure out where has everyone gone, and the fact that there's now the lights have turned out, so Bill's gonna have to go look for the generator, try to work on the generator. Alice is just terrified. She cannot find anyone. As Bill is trying to figure out how to work the generator, she is trying to find any of her camp counselor friends and figure out, like, they can't also
Where
the
is
phone.
everyone?
The phone line's down.
And she's just now kind of getting that something got to do with something.
Yeah, the cars aren't starting, so it's obvious that, like, they're made to be isolated.
You know, we're trapped here. Someone is keeping us here.
And then she finds Bill, but now Bill has also been murdered, and he is pinned
been
to the
moited.
door, and he's got arrows all plugged into him. He's got poles and holes, and
Yeah, he's got holes and holes.
and so Alice is freaked out after finding Bill, and she runs into, like, the big part of the main cabin.
She starts trying to barricade it with, like,
Yeah.
anything she can find. I mean, she's grabbing the most ridiculous stuff. She's not even stacking it correctly. I mean, granted, she's frantic right now. So
Yeah, she's a little frazzled,
she's
so
not
she's just
thinking correctly.
putting, like, salt and pepper shakers on top like it's gonna matter. But it doesn't matter. Her back is turned to this, like, window that she's also closed, like, the curtains on, and then a body is hurled through the window, and it's shattered, and it kind of falls on her, and she sees that it's the dead body of Brenda,
It's like, Brenda,
and she is
we
terrified.
didn't get to finish our strip Monopoly game, Brenda.
And so she goes ahead and just immediately takes all of her clothes off and says, I win. So there's just, like,
She
case.
took Brenda's clothes off and said, I won.
Yes.
She's like, best 2 out of 3. Oh, I win again.
Up, tits out. Okay, looks like I'm the real winner. She runs out the door, and we get this car approaching. Steve had been murdered by that unseen
Yeah, we are
guy.
just skipping around.
No,
Yeah.
I think we'd already talked
We're
about.
talking about Steve getting
Yeah,
it.
like, we kind of went on, like, a separate thing. Like,
I
off on
know.
his own, Steve's been trying to, like, make it to the camp. He had
No,
been at the diner.
This is just now.
No, just, like, a little bit ago. We like, did that. Talked about how
Oh,
he had been
okay.
at the diner, and then his car got stuck in the mud.
Oh, that's true. We did. Yeah,
Okay.
and then he got killed.
And then he got killed
He
by...
recognized whoever it was.
He did.
Too.
He was like, what are you doing, Mom?
Gabriel Voorhees, what are you doing?
So, yeah, so Steve got killed, but his truck is the one that approaches. So that's why she's like, Steve, Steve. And then it's not him. And she's like, who are you? And it's a woman. She's all like, oh, little old me?
Oh,
I'm just a friend
I'm
of the
a friend of
Christies.
I'm a friend of the Christies. And I do a better impression of Betsy Palmer
it.
than, well, I just did. I'm a friend of the Christies. Wasn't that amazing?
Well, I had to look around because at first I thought that Betsy Palmer was
It's in the back
the
seat.
ghost of
Oh my
Betsy
God.
Palmer was in the car.
That good.
But then I thought, oh no, is a What Lies Beneath happening? And Betsy Palmer's taking over you?
I have
and
become Betsy Palmer. I
she's
am
suspecting
Betsy
something.
Palmer.
I am Betsy.
Killer, mommy. Killer.
So, Mrs. Voorhees introduces herself and says, why, I'm Mrs. Voorhees.
She's like, allow myself to introduce myself. Austin Powers Joe.
And she explains in this wonderful, or Alice is like hysterical and explains, like, everybody is like dead, dying, don't go in there. She goes in there into the cabin, is like, oh no, who could do this? And she's all like,
Yeah, she's like, what madman? Or she says, like,
Yeah.
gives him a name, like, what kind of monster would do this?
and how she says it though, she kind of like puts herself in the door frame. It's very cinematic.
Yeah.
Kind of like pinning
Very
herself up
30s,
against,
like,
like,
cinema.
oh,
Oh, God.
who could do
Oh, I'm
this?
gooning.
As we know, it's like her, you kind of like cute. It's like what?
She's
Like
changing.
yeah, she's changing. she informs Alice of this backstory that only she is able to provide to us, which is that in 1957 there was a young boy,
Jason.
Today is his birthday.
Today is his birthday.
And his name is Jason. And today is his birthday.
He was birthed on this day.
And his name
Jason
is
was.
Jason. And she just keeps saying
His
that
name-
back and
Jason.
forth.
Did I tell you? He was born on this day, my Jason.
It's that,
His name is Jason.
It's that, what's that? I live in a,
No, it was crazy. I was
yeah.
crazy once. They put me in a rubber room with rats. Rats drive me crazy.
Crazy?
I was crazy once.
You just keep saying it over and over and over.
Oh, ridiculous.
Okay. She just explains that, like, that Jason kid was her son, and in 1957, camp counselors were too busy getting a freak on making love.
They
she
were
said.
making love while he was drowning.
And he was not a very good swimmer, hence why he was here at Camp Crystal Lake to get his lake skills. But he didn't, and he drowned in the lake. And now I came back the next year because I had to, like, kill them, because you can't just, like, kill my son by not paying attention to him.
I'm gonna kill everybody in this young profession.
And she couldn't allow the camp to open again. She was like, I couldn't let the Christies do this. Like, could you imagine? Like, the
She's-
camping open? It's crazy.
She's like, I would
sauce.
rather kill a lot of teenagers than see this place be open.
I would rather continue to commit felony
Moida.
offenses, moral offenses. I would rather. Have you ever played? Have you never? Have I never?
Have I never?
She wouldn't be able to play that game very well.
She's like, never have I ever stuck an arrow through a kid's throat. She's like, oh shit, drink to that. I've done that one.
She is getting so wasted. Okay.
Never have I ever terrorized a campground on Friday the 13th.
Oh,
shit.
Jesse, shit. It's that person that intentionally only asks, like, questions that they've done, like, they know.
Yeah.
It's just too on point. Well, Miss Voorhees, after her Never Have I Ever segment, then lunges at Alice with this knife, this, like, Bowie knife that we saw the mortarer kill Annie at the beginning with, and she has the ring on her finger. We get it full circle that she is in fact the mortarer.
She's the mortarer,
She's
y'all.
got mortar in her veins, and she's bloodthirsty, and she's gonna finish what she started in 1958 and annihilate any camp counselor that gets in her way of celebrating her son's birthday.
I tell you, his name is Jason, and it's his birthday.
It's his birthday, and his name is Jason.
That rabbit hole again.
Alice, though, she's, like, fighting for her. We get, like, this just on and on and on chase sequence
yeah.
for the next, like, several minutes. The
It's
next,
a
like,
good
10
one.
minutes is this just, like, ongoing.
She tussles, she hits her with a fire poker.
Yep. She's got a fireplace poker right to the face, kind of, like, knocks her out. We think she's unconscious, but then she chases her, like,
Down
through
to the water.
campgrounds. Alice finds Steve and Annie's dead bodies. We have another, like, scene where Miss Voorhees starts talking to herself, but it's like Jason is talking to, like, she is Jason. She's, kill her, mommy, kill her. And she corners Alice, like, in the shed area, but Alice almost gets this, like, rifle gun, but doesn't. Like, it's just this continued tussle, and there's not, like, there's a moment where Alice and Mrs. Voorhees are wrestling around, and Miss Voorhees just starts slapping her.
And then
like,
scissoring her.
Yeah, well, slapping her Gucci, and she's prepping it. Oh my God, we're just getting crazy. I hope, I don't know, if anyone is still listening, just know that like we really do love and appreciate this movie,
We love it.
and that's why
That's why we can make all the jokes.
we can make as many jokes as we like. So she gets pussy ragdoll slapped, and Alice does, and then Alice gets out of the grips of Miss Voorhees. Miss Voorhees is like a strong powerhouse. Think about it. She has murdered so many people, dragged bodies places, hurled them up on doors,
And
pinned
she's-
them to things.
And she's like pushing 65 or
Yeah.
older, yeah.
This,
And 1980 65.
yeah. So what does that mean exactly?
That would be
Just
like a nowadays, like,
an octogenarian.
yeah, like if 65 in 1980 is like what 80s is.
So
now.
like if like that whole like
65 is like 50 something.
40's the new 50.
Yeah,
but,
that's
okay.
right. That's right.
Alice ends up lopping Miss Voorhees upside the head with a frying pan. Good on her. She like knocks her out cold. And
Like, how many times is she gonna beat this old lady up?
as many times as it takes, Josh.
Yeah, I
As
mean,
many
she's
times
killed all her
as
friends.
it takes. Alice like had nearly been filleted by a machete, you know, but she gets her with a frying pan and gets down to the waterfront.
She drops the frying pan down by the waterfront too, right?
Yeah, and then we
Hides
get
behind a canoe.
one last canoe ride. No, she gets one last. She has to defend herself one last time. Miss Voorhees gets down there with the machete.
And her hairy
And
knuckles.
Her very hairy knuckles. They tussle around again. There's hair pulling. There's titty twisting.
Cooter kicking.
Coochie kicking. Coochie juices
And then-
just going everywhere, as they say.
And then when Alice has had enough of these shenanigans, she grabs that row, the kayak row, the
Yep.
canoe row your boat, and rows her head off her head.
She
off
lops it off
her
with a
neck.
machete.
Oh, it's not the oar?
No.
Why was I thinking she killed her with the oar? Yeah, she gets a machete.
Because she cuts her head off, Josh.
That's right.
She's gotta like
I thought she
lop
did it
it off.
with a really sharp oar. Oh.
What? Like
No, you're right. It's a machete. Not
Yeah.
it's not part of the rowboat.
no.
She hits her with the rowboat. Hey, that's what it is. She doesn't knock her head off.
Yeah,
of it.
and she also, you
Oh,
know,
shit.
uses the oar for other orifices.
Okay, edit this out.
Edit that
No.
out. And
So
put in-
she picks up the
grabs
machete.
machete. As you were saying, Josh, she grabs that machete.
She grabs that
you
machete
mentioned,
and then knocks
and then
her head
knocks
off.
her head off. And so now we have a really dead Miss Voorhees, and Alice, although she is going through a tremendous amount of trauma, having witnessed so many people being murdered.
She's like,
and
I'm gonna go recover down by the water.
she does what any final girl would do: grabs a canoe, gets in it, and pushes her out to the middle of the lake. That's
She's like-
where the safety is.
She's like, I'll be safe out here in the middle of the water.
If you want to find me, you're gonna have to swim out here first.
She doesn't look like a lady that can swim.
And at dawn, this very beautiful, like the cinematography right here is gorgeous. We see Alice, her hand is draped outside the canoe. She's been sleeping.
So peaceful and beautiful.
She is still feeling safe, probably coming down maybe from all of that shock.
She's like,
and
God, that was a crazy high I got from chopping off
being
an old lady's
nearly
head.
murdered. And we get this very dream-like, beautiful music, and it kind of crescendos up, and then this the strings, you know, that we're coming to know in slasher movies as like that heightened tension moment. It comes on, and this deformed, disfigured, like decomposing
Justine,
body.
don't other Jason Voorhees like that by saying all those things you just said about him.
Well, I
Deformed.
did. He was deformed.
No, I'm just teasing.
He had a deformation.
You could just say he was fucking ugly and scary in the face.
Yeah, like only the face a mother could love just springs out of the water.
If they were a kindly, God-loving woman.
Which, His mother was not. Grabs onto Alice. She's frightened. We're all frightened. This is the jump scare of a century. It's reminiscent of Carrie, and it was influenced by that.
Yeah, they totally stole the idea from Carrie of having like this sequence that totally lulls you in with its like peacefulness. You know, in Carrie, you have her friend coming to lay flowers at the house that's been burned down. Well,
yeah.
This one, like you said, it lulls you in with her like in this idyllic location. She has her hands in the water. The music is so genteel, and then it crescendos, and yeah, great jump scare.
Incredible jump scare. Arguably one of the top, 50 jump scares in horror history.
Yep. Maybe even like top 10 in horror history.
Herstory, maybe?
In
It's Alice's story.
Yep. So I would have to get a list first to then be able to be like, oh yeah, this one's actually better, Justine.
Well, there are plenty out there. We've
Yeah,
got
it's a
countless
good one.
countdown shows that we're also inspired by and influenced by, and countless other people that review things that let us know all of the amazing jump scares in this century
Yeah.
and the last.
Let's rate them.
Okay. Alice, though, wakes up, and she's in a hospital bed, and there's a police officer there letting her know, like, you were here, we found you in the water.
She's like, what about the boy?
There's no other survivors.
What
And
about
she's,
the boy?
What about the boy?
What about the boy?
And the police officer's like, there was no boy, we didn't find anybody else there.
I saw him, his name is Jason.
And we end the movie with her realization to herself, it seems so real to her, must be real, that he's still there then. Like,
And we'll find out he was.
yeah. And then we get
Part
Friday
two.
the 13th, Part 2, directed by Steve Miner, who is the director of the next movie. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's Friday the 13th, Josh. We're heading
I'm
to...
so excited that we're going to the locations of Friday the 13th and camp on Friday the 13th.
On Friday the 13th. And we just must say, although it isn't it's not, I guess it really isn't Jason's birthday, because Jason's birthday is June 13th, but just a happy birthday, Jason. It is a Friday the 13th.
Happy birthday, Jason.
Happy birthday. If you didn't get a summer at least it's still summertime. It's September the 13th, and so it's the last days of summer.
Yeah.
And we love you, Jason. Mommy loves you.
We're about to go tour your camp, Jason.
If we see you there, say hi. Don't stab us. Don't hit us with a machete. Don't
Just
knock
love
us
us,
with a
'cause
sleeping bag.
We
up
love
against-
you, Jason.
We love you, Jason. I was trying to name off some of the most iconic kills in Friday the 13th franchise. Josh, right before we just head on out, we've got so much more to do, but what was your what's the most you're looking forward to out of all that we're going to go to?
Seeing the camp.
Yeah, definitely seeing the camp for me. All right, guys, we'll catch you on the flip side. See you in just a little bit.
Bye.
We won't wanna go home. There's a killer on the loose. Look out, he's right behind you. He won't give me the axe. I'm scared, but I'm fighting back. We are the scream queens, running through the night. We are the scream queens, gonna put up a fight, make everything alright.
And we're back from the most epic Friday the 13th celebration.
Yes, I can very confidently say now that this has been my most favorite Friday the 13th experience of life.
Yeah, how are we ever going to top this? I don't think we can unless we just come back and do this event and maybe stay the night or something. But how else do you top Friday the 13th by going to the Mecca? Going to the filming locations and the camp. We had the best like half day and night in New Jersey, exploring Blairstown and the camp. And now we're going to tell you all about it.
Oh my goodness. Yes, definitely. Knowing now that I'm not quite sure how we would ever make it even more memorable or special for like Friday the 13th part 2, part 3. My gosh, we've got like so many that we could do. We could just keep going back to the camp.
Or keep going to the different camps. They filmed at
That's
all
true.
different locations, I believe. I'm not sure how consistent or inconsistent they were with the filming locations. I know the first one, the original, is the only one that did film at Camp Nobi Bosco, which we found out means Northern Bergen, or North Bergen Boy Scouts is what Nobi Bosco stands for.
In
So,
case you were thinking
mystery
it was something like old-timey or from another language, it's not. It's just a shortening of a bunch of words for the Boy Scouts in that region of New Jersey.
yeah, and we were in like northwestern New Jersey. We came into like the quiet little town of Blairstown, the quiet town of Blairs, to see like a big party happening in the town. You know, the town only has like 400 and something residents. It's a cute little town nestled in the hills and in the woods of New Jersey. And when we pulled up, like there were people walking on the streets with all their Friday the 13th and Jason and Pamela Voorhees gear on. And we immediately went to the diner and it was packed. People waiting outside. Somehow we got in right away. Because after we sat down, there was like a line out the door. They were having to make a line and start taking names and, you know, for the people waiting on the patio. It was almost becoming a little unorganized in there. But it was so cool.
Yeah, the decorations. Although we weren't quite sure if like the decor and the menu, if that was something that stayed all year round, given the notoriety of that place with the movie, or if it was because of the weekend and the timing, if they changed their menu a little bit. But I wouldn't be surprised if that diner in Blairstown year-round 365 is serving Jason slicers and, you know, smash burgers and camp burgers and things like that.
Kevin's bacon.
Yeah, everything was themed. Every single item.
I do think we had a special weekend event menu. I heard her say that to someone, that they had a limited menu for the weekend. Because I do think every Friday the 13th, that town becomes like a weird little party town. Everyone makes their little pilgrimage out to Blairstown. The diner seems kind of like the point of reference for most people, like where maybe people stop in first. It is kind of the first thing you see when you come into the town is the diner. And the food wasn't great. I would say go because the atmosphere is fun. Get the potato slicers if they're on the menu. That was the best thing we had.
Yes, the Jason slicers were basically homemade deep fried potato chips, but really thick. And nice and well cooked, nice salty, and it had that kind of concessions
Ballpark cheese on top.
Those, yeah, I'll come back for that.
I would say some things were a little overpriced, like the burger.
Bless you.
Jason, Pamela Voorhees was like, "Don't you talk shit about my diner." But the burgers, they tasted fine, but they were little, and it cost $22 for one little tiny burger.
Yeah.
I would say that wasn't worth the price.
They definitely were. I felt like I was paying Disney World prices for things that I would otherwise have gotten for half the price. Quality wise, though, it was middling. But that's okay. We weren't there necessarily for the scrumptious food as we were for the ambiance, the environment,
To see the film location.
Yeah, the charm of it, the fact that regardless on how big or small their menu is on Friday the 13th, like everybody there really brings their all. The place was decorated really nice and sweet. They had cute little memorabilias and nostalgic merchandise that you could purchase to take with you that day.
They had a couple people dressed up as Jason roaming around the cafe or the diner, taking pictures with everyone. Even though I'm like, I'm sorry, this was Pamela Voorhees' spot, not Jason's. Not that they, I mean, it was Baghead and
Yeah. It took all of Josh's Virgo traits that he had to squash down to not
like,
point
this
things out
location
to
was
people.
all about little baby Jason, little freak coming out of the water Jason.
Yeah, how come
and
none of y'all are looking like that?
Yeah, this isn't hockey mask Jason yet.
No, not yet. Not
but
yet.
it's fine. We were in the spirit of it. Everyone associates Friday the 13th with Jason, so we got it. It was
And
cool.
That's fun and playful. There was one other thing that I was going to mention about the well, at least we know that twice a year they get to have really fun celebrations and celebrate a Friday the 13th. I think I'm right on that. That at least 2, if not 3 times a year, we get a Friday the 13th.
And then the rest of the town, like the main street, you could tell it was almost like, a little street fair was going on. All the little buildings and restaurants and shops, little tiendas on Main Street were selling Friday the 13th merch, or like their little pub house was having a Camp Crystal Lake martini, which of course we stopped and had.
Yes, we okay, so we arrived, had ourselves a meal at the diner, the Blairstown Diner, and got ourselves good little pictures and started what we needed to find where to park. And given that it's like a very small town of like 450 people, we weren't really sure of where to park, and we had no idea that the place was going to be hemorrhaging people for the evening time. There were people everywhere, so we got a little worried that parking might be a problem.
Well, because we also found out too, the tour that we went to on Friday the 13th does like a whole weekend, so people could go Saturday or Sunday. We of course wanted to do Friday the 13th there.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people come in town probably take over the bed and breakfast. There really weren't hotels in the area. We had to stay like probably about 20 miles away in Pennsylvania is actually where our hotel was.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we drove the half hour into Blairstown for the evening. But yeah, parking was limited. We found parking spot, thank goodness.
Thank goodness. So we decided we're go ahead and get our location pictures with it was beautiful. It was golden hour. We had ample time given that we had shown up and immediately got seated for our food. Like, we had plenty of time to get these pictures going before we even had to think about getting in the car and there being another 20 miles. And it really is, guys, like in the movie, at the beginning, there are several comments that people are saying, oh, the camp is like 20 miles, away, and it's still quite a distance. Yeah, there was no lie there. We had to drive 20 miles to get to the next place, and it is up in the hills. Camp Novi Bosco, even a lot of their Boy Scout emblemage and like signage and the pins and buttons that they have this kind of mountain on it that is really signature, and that becomes even a part of the view of Camp Crystal Lake. You can see that mountain in the background.
Yeah, anytime they're at the pool, or not the pool, the like lake during the daytime, you can see the big little mountain peaks standing above everything else, and we got to see that in person, y'all.
So our locations that we were able to visit were everything that we're going to be in Blairstown. We saw the bridge that Annie walks across when she's, that montage of her entering into town, and she's walking down a ramp and walking down a hill. Again, this is hill country. We are in an area of the Appalachians. It's the Kittanini Mountains is where we're located. So there's a lot. We were doing a lot of little hill climbing. We also did the bridge that it's not cement, but maybe
it's the bridge she walks over. That big one with all the water falling down, I don't think is actually in the movie.
No, but people were over there taking
and it
pictures.
confused us at first, and then we're like, oh, that's not in the movie.
Yeah,
it's the bridge
We just started
behind
looking
us.
up pics to make sure.
Yeah, we just saw all the things on the Main Street area that she's walking, the building with like the arches, just all the little hills she's walking down into the town. And we got good pictures. You can see those probably in our
Instagram stories. I know you were posting them in there.
Well, I was going to say on our Patreon, we'll post those in our
newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
We also parked. So when we got there, we arrived early, so early, in fact, that we were the first car for our time slot to show up.
Yeah. So we waited about 45 minutes to an hour. We got there a little earlier. I had read the directions wrong, thinking it said to be there 10 minutes before 7. It was actually not what the thing said. So we were there, but we were fine. We got some pictures of the entrance. We hung out. We were the first in. We met our tour guide Eric when, you know, he checked us in our car, and then there was about 60 people on this tour, and we split up into 3 groups of 20.
Yes.
And Eric was our tour guide.
And you got to choose, and I'm sorry, but us gals needed a mustache man.
Yeah, we beelined right for Eric.
It was the moment that he locked eyes with us, we knew he was our camp counselor for life.
Yeah, we wanted the hot little camp counselor with a mustache.
And he knew so much information, shared a lot with all of us. I love a tour guide. I love a docent, but I will say he was much younger than us by at least like 10 years. But the knowledge that he had showed that even though initially his relationship with the camp had been because he himself was a Boy Scout, that he too enjoys the Friday the 13th movies and has a special bond with the film, given that he has his own experiences of the camp, but also has a love for spooky things.
And you do not leave any of that camp uncharted. We saw, in the 3 hours that we walked around with Eric, we saw every little moment from that movie where it was filmed. Even here is the generator room. Here is, just every little nook and cranny. Here's another view of this shot where they would have been standing here on this side of the beach to get that shot of her in the morning when the cops pull up, and just every little area. And it took almost from 7:30, we didn't get out of there until nearly 11 at night. And it was so eerie and neat being there at night. They do daytime tours as well, but we wanted the night. We wanted that special spooky atmosphere.
It begins to, after you get divided off into who's going to be your little tour guide, everybody went in kind of a different direction, so we weren't bucking up to another group. So we really got to spend a lot of time at each one of these stops, just getting our own pictures, getting our own videos. I liked that too. At no point in time did either the guide nor the other participants in our group ever give me the kind of feeling of all right, hurry up, come on, we're all waiting for you. Everybody was really kind and generous with their time and space, and if you wanted to get a picture, you really just didn't have to beg for it. People were just waiting there for you to get whatever moment, because to all of us, this was such a special opportunity.
And everybody was really excited to be there. The tour guide seemed really into it, like we said. He also mentioned it was their 3rd tour of the day. So he's been doing this all day, but still was really into it, giving so much good information. We won't go into every little room that we went into, but we'll touch on the big things. We went into, my favorite personally was the big room where they play the naked Monopoly. We went to Alice's room, where the snake is. We went into the bunk room where Kevin Bacon is killed. Into the bathroom where Lauren Linda is killed.
Marcy.
With the axe in the face.
Yeah. And probably my favorite location was the lake itself, Camp Crystal Lake. They also had it set up with a canoe out there so that we could get a shot of where they also would have been getting the shot, the end shot that has her arm draped out. And they really explained around the lake the different areas that the camera crew would have been able to get into position to gain those certain shots, and how because when we were moving around, anybody in there might be thinking well, how come they didn't use this area over here? That looks like it would have been better for them. But the camp itself is an active camp, And through all these years, they've updated, they've made necessary updates, and also done things to preserve locations and areas of that campsite. So he really, Eric, our tour guide, did a wonderful job of explaining when maybe what we were looking at now looked different or would not have been the best place for a camera to be to get a shot. And I just think that for me, those added to the unique opportunity that we had being there, is having someone who would go the extra mile when it came to giving us, if you love movies like we do, Josh and I love the movie making experience itself. Hearing someone talk about that process is as special as almost like the first time that you watch it.
Well, and you'd be surprised too how many of the locations were still exactly how they would have been in 1979 when they were filming this. You know, he would mention like, oh, this is the exact spot. You know, not much has been done with this area. It's exactly how it looks in the movie. This is the same old radiator you see in the movie. You know, just down to like some of the really small details were really cool. We also learned some things I never knew. We've always been taught it was Tom Savini's hands that you see whenever she gets her head chopped off. It's really his assistant Tosca or Tosco or I forget.
Yes.
You know, they mentioned that a lot of time. That almost every time you see someone's hands that aren't out actually Alice's or Pamela Voorhees, that it's really Tosca's, which I thought was cool. I had always heard that was Tom Savini's hands. I think we even mentioned that in part 1. So I was like, that's cool.
Once he does explain it, kind of makes even more sense. Like, yeah, like Tom would probably have been way more in the practical area of it, like either watching it on camera to see like how it's looking, or in the case of the Kevin Bacon incident, he was underneath the bed. He was pumping that blood that was coming out of that arrow wound and pushing it through. So it takes a lot of movie magic to make something look as amazing as it does.
Well, I think they even mentioned too with that it was Tosco who messed up the pump, and then he had to like blow through it, so all the blood would come out. So a lot of cool little things in each room. Every location you went into had big pictures set up that showed you exactly where you were or showed you elements. Like when you went to Alice's room, they would have stills of that scene on large, I don't even know what you would call them, like posters almost, set up around the room so you could really match points and be like, okay, that was there, this was here, she's looking through this window, things like that. It was really cool. They even took us to the archery spot where, is that Linda? I get their names mixed up other than Alice.
No, Marcy's the one that gets killed in the bathroom, and Brenda is...
So there's no Linda.
There's no Linda.
I think I'm mixing Brenda with Linda.
And then, as well as the tour, we also had a fun photo op. So you were able to see the original Friday the 13th Camp Crystal Lake sign, but to take a picture, they had an exact replica made of that sign, and then there were replicas of 2 of the vehicles that are featured in the film, and then the totem pole that is also featured in several shots of the movie is a replica. And then they had cute little signs, and like the bicycle that Ralph rides you can take a picture in front of. So Josh and I took pictures in front of everything.
And then you could choose like if you wanted them as Polaroid styles or if you wanted like an 8x10 glossy. We got one 8x10 in front of the sign, and then our other 2 pictures are these really cool retro, Polaroids, and they just added like just a unique,
even down to the Polaroid had the Sharpie like Camp Crystal Lake 1980 written at the bottom, like you would have done when it came out, just to make sure you wrote down who was in the pig or where it was and the date. So again, just really added to the specialness of everything. So we had a lot of pictures that we took, and they had their own official Camp Crystal Lake tours, souvenirs, and merch. So we grabbed matching hats.
And I got a t-shirt. They had all kinds of merch. Like they even had the yellow ponchos, which I was so tempted to buy. I just don't wear a poncho that much. I just grab an umbrella if I need something. But so much cute merch. It really was a fantastic experience. Like we said, it took 3 hours to go through this tour, so you really get your money's worth. It wasn't a cheap tour, and I think they know that, and so they give you a really cool experience. A lot of the money goes to a camp down the street from them that invites children with cancer to come spend a week, and it helps pay for, like, you know, all their nurses and doctors on staff, and helps so those kids can have a free, cool, you know,
really memorable experience, just like other children have that same opportunity. They wanted to give that as well. So just knowing that too, like, oh, they do good things.
So it's a big fundraiser for the camp itself and for the camp down the street. If you ever get a chance, I believe they do these tours most Friday the 13th. It's really awesome. It really reminded me almost of like our times in Salem, but on a smaller micro level, or even going to like a horror convention. It had that same kind of party atmosphere. Like I said, that whole town probably doubled or quadrupled in size for Friday the 13th, and people were just having fun, having drinks. There was so much activity and life in the streets and on that little Main Street strip. It was just a really unique experience. Coolest Friday the 13th ever.
Yes, definitely. I recommend it. Not even if you're just in the area. Like, Josh and I drove across the country to see this tour. So glad that we did. It's super memorable. It's unique. It's something signature for that place. And I am just so thankful and grateful that we have our podcast here and we do these fun adventures together and celebrate our love of horror and our love of road trips.
Yeah, it was amazing, and now we have it immortalized on podcast.
and in pictures, and videos. So, okay, well, let's go ahead and we will creep right back into the movie and get into our fave scenes. Josh, I'm going to start. My fave scene of the movie is the first chase scene with Annie. I think that this sets the tone for what we should expect, which is we're not going to see the killer, you know. We're going to get those killer POV shots. We're going to get a silent killer who's not going to be engaging and not going to be talking. And we're going to have some smart, resourceful ladies. I think Annie, I know she obviously doesn't make, she's our first, like, or not our first kill, that's the two counselors before, but she tries. You can tell that she is kind of a force, and that she was excited to have the chance to get to go to the camp, was looking forward to it.
And there's an element of surprise there because they set her up. We start the movie pretty much with her after the first kill. You think she's going to be the main character. Yeah, like there's not anything that makes you think until she's running for her life that you're like, oh, okay. They spend a lot of time getting to know her and establishing her with her walking through the streets. Which is
great, and I think too this sets what does become a trope of, like, let's just kill off the teenagers. Like, here they set it up. We get to know Annie a little bit. At least we get to know that she, although maybe she's a little stubborn or doesn't want to, like, hear the old people spout their, like, BS about the camp, that she definitely can hold her own and was willing to fight, was willing to run and flee, but sadly she's not our final girl. But that chase scene for me gets my blood pumping and gets me in the mood to watch the rest of it.
Yay. My favorite scene, I'm going to go to the opposite end, is probably the last chase scene with Alice and Mrs. Voorhees. Pretty much after Miss Voorhees is established as the killer, when they start running and fighting and tussling around the camp. It's a lot of fun, just like you kind of said, I love a chase scene. chase scenes for me are usually when I'm most at the edge of my seat, having that visceral experience of like, run, girl, run, keep going, fight, hit them. You know, I love that feeling. To me, that's like horror more than, or that's how I gauge being scared in a movie, is how frightened I am for a character, if I'm worried for them, if I'm scared that they're gonna die or something's gonna happen to them, more so than like a jump scare.
Mhm.
Jump scares are fun, but that's not how I gauge, like, was the movie scary? Because jump scares are cheap, but can a chase scene or something keep me on the edge of my seat where I'm worried about a character, or if I'm worried about their next move, or what
Or
room
how
they're going
loud
in
they are.
next. You just see all the different elements, and I love that final scene with Miss Voorhees. I love when she gets her head cut off, and just all that. It's so much fun.
The reveal of Mrs. Voorhees could also, it itself could be another one of my favorite scenes, because you're just completely thrown when she starts with her little monologue and explains.
Jason was my son.
It's like, yeah, that makes perfect freaking sense. Nothing like the love for your child to get you to murder a whole bunch of
Unsuspecting
yeah,
teenagers.
not really. They didn't deserve it. None of them were on watch whenever he went down.
They're like, we were babies, Miss Voorhees, when this happened. We weren't watching your son.
Sorry. I mean, I definitely think they would have been better babysitters than the other camp counselors, but you didn't even give them the chance. They were all so excited to teach their archery.
They had so much to live for, Miss Voorhees.
No more. No mas, Miss Voorhees. No mas. Okay, well, that's it. Knives ratings, but this is a foundational horror movie. This is arguably one of the biggest and most successful franchises in scary movie history. I'm sorry, but it would be ridiculous if we both weren't like at least giving a 4.5 knife rating. But for myself, it's 5 knives. This is unlike the others that is just Jason. This has an incredible plot twist at the end, and I think that it alone that's worth 5.
I'm going 4.5. I think out of the main franchises of the 80s, like Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, this one, I adore it, love it, but it has some flaws. It's not a perfect movie, but I don't expect it to be. I do love this movie. It's better than most horror movies. It's seminal for its time. You know, he's arguably one of the biggest villains in horror, you know, even though he's only a small part of this one. Friday the 13th is such a great franchise. They're all so different, but the same. But this one does have the most heart, the most cohesive story. It's really building a lot of that lore before it kind of just goes everywhere and nowhere. Yeah, 4.5. I think that's still a really solid rating.
Oh, absolutely.
Out of the 3,
yeah.
it's my least favorite out of the 3, out of the other franchises.
Out of Freddy, Michael, and Jason. Is
Yeah.
that you're referring to?
Yeah, out of
Oh,
Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th. But this is still a great movie. And when I say it has its flaws, it's like I'm not even going to sit here and point them out. They're very minuscule. That's just my take. 4.5. Love it. Watch it most Friday the 13th, even though I can't remember if it's Brenda or Linda. But yeah.
Is it Belinda?
Her name is Linda Brenda. Or Brenda Linda. Linda's her middle name.
Okay. All right, guys. So next up for us is we're going to be covering for episode 105, the 1986 house.
And we'll be heading to Washington, D.C. to explore the mansion on O Street. So if you want to do some research into that so you know what we're talking about, go for it. It's a crazy mansion in DuPont Circle in Washington, D.C. that you can just explore. And we'll go there and learn and tell you all about it next episode.
Yeah, we're excited to learn about it and see like over 100 rooms or something like that with these doors that lead to nowhere and everywhere at the same time. So
in the meantime, check out all our social media, join our Patreon, And don't forget to go give us that 5-star review and give us a little shout out. Type up a quick little review for us. It helps us get seen. The more, it really does, the more that we are reviewed on iTunes or Apple or Spotify, the more it shows up in the algorithm when people search podcasts. So help us.
Yeah. We appreciate all the love and support. You guys love each other, take care of each other, and we'll see you next time. Bye.